It is impossible to live without failing at something unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all, in which case you have failed by default. These are not my words, but the insightful musings of J.K. Rowling, the mastermind behind the world-renowned Harry Potter series. This quote is a gem that deserves a closer look. Let's dissect it, shall we? First off, the quote starts with, "It is impossible to live without failing at something." Quite a bold statement, isn't it? But think about it. From the moment we start to walk, we stumble and fall. When we learn to talk, we stutter and mispronounce words. Failure is part of the human condition. It's part of growth. It's part of learning. It's part of life. The next part of the quote goes, "Unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all." This part is a bit of a warning, isn't it? It suggests that a life lived in constant fear of failure, a life dictated by caution and hesitation, is not a life lived to its fullest. It's a life of missed opportunities, of unexplored potentials, of untapped talents. The final part of the quote, "in which case you have failed by default," is quite a punch. It tells us that by avoiding failure, we are actually setting ourselves up for the biggest failure of all, a life not fully lived. So what are the key points here? 1. Failure is part of life. It's a necessary component of growth and learning. 2. A life lived in fear of failure is not a life lived to its fullest. It's a life of missed opportunities and unexplored potentials. And 3. By avoiding failure, we are setting ourselves up for the biggest failure of all, a life not fully lived. In conclusion, J.K. Rowling's quote serves as a reminder to embrace failure as a part of life, to live boldly and fully, and to understand that the only real failure is a life not lived to its fullest. So go out there, face your fears, stumble, fall, learn, grow, and live. After all, isn't that what life is all about?